Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm 28 years old, working as a marketing executive, and I was beyond excited to start a family with my husband, Mike. We had been dreaming of this moment for ages, but little did I know that Mike's mother, Linda, had her own plans for our growing family. It all began when Mike and I announced our pregnancy. We were thrilled, but Linda's reaction was off. She forced a smile and said, "Oh, how wonderful. Just make sure it doesn't interfere with my birthday plans." I laughed it off at first, thinking it was a joke, but as time passed, her behavior became more intrusive. She insisted on organizing my baby shower, and when I tried to contribute, she brushed me off. "Honey, I've done this before. You just focus on growing that baby," she'd say, patting my belly like I was merely an incubator. Things escalated when we started decorating the nursery. Mike and I had chosen a sweet woodland theme, but Linda barged in, shaking her head. "No, no, no. Babies need pastels, not these ridiculous colors," she declared, holding up a fistful of pink paint swatches. I tried to be polite. "Linda, we really appreciate your input, but this is our decision." She narrowed her eyes. "I'm just trying to help. Don't be so sensitive." Mike, bless him, stepped in, trying to mediate. "Mom, Sarah, and I have already chosen the theme. Maybe you can help with picking out clothes instead." But Linda couldn't let it go. She started showing up unannounced, sneaking in decor items when we weren't looking, trying to change the nursery behind our backs. It was exhausting. As my due date approached, her fixation with her birthday became unnerving. She constantly hinted how special it would be if the baby arrived on her big day. I started to feel like my body was a ticking time bomb. One evening, a week before my due date, Linda cornered me in the kitchen during a family dinner. Her voice was low, her breath hot on my ear. "You know, Sarah," she whispered, "it would be such a blessing if you could hold off on delivering until my birthday. We could share the special day." I was stunned. "Linda, that's not really something I can control." Her hand gripped my arm, nails digging into my skin. "Oh, you'd be surprised what a determined mother can do," she said, her eyes gleaming in a way that sent a chill down my spine. I found Mike, and we left immediately. On the drive home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. "Mike, I'm worried about your mom. She's becoming obsessed with this birthday thing." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I know she can be overbearing, but she means well. She's just excited about the baby." But I wasn't convinced. That night, as I lay in bed, rubbing my belly, I couldn't stop wondering what Linda might do to get her way. And soon, I was about to find out just how far she'd go. 2 days before Linda's birthday, the contractions started, sharp and intense. Mike rushed me to the hospital, my hand gripping his through each wave of pain. Of course, Linda insisted on coming along, hovering like a vulture. "Just hold on, sweetie," she urged, checking her watch constantly. "Maybe we can time this just right." I wanted to scream at her, but another contraction knocked the wind out of me. The next hours blurred into one long haze of pain and exhaustion, with Linda's mutterings about the time ringing in my ears. "It's getting close to midnight. Just a little longer, dear." The doctors urged me to push, but I was beyond tired. Mike was by my side, encouraging me, but Linda kept butting in. "Come on, Sarah, just hold on a bit longer. You can do this." Finally, with one last agonizing push, our baby girl was born. The clock had just struck 12:01 a.m., Linda's birthday. "Oh, how perfect," Linda squealed, clapping her hands in delight. "We're birthday twins." I barely registered her words as they laid my daughter on my chest. She was beautiful, perfect, and the overwhelming love I felt brought tears to my eyes. But Linda's excitement quickly soured. As the nurses fussed over the baby and Mike beamed with joy, I saw Linda's expression shift. Her smile froze, then twisted into a scowl. "Well, I suppose that's nice," she muttered, but no one paid attention to her anymore. Hours passed in a daze. Exhausted, I drifted off while the nurses took my baby for some routine tests. I'm not sure how long I slept, but something stirred me awake. My eyes fluttered open, and what I saw sent a shock of terror through me. Linda was standing over my baby's crib, a pillow clutched in her hands. She glanced around and slowly lowered the pillow toward my daughter's face. "No," I screamed, my voice raw and hoarse. "What are you doing?" Linda jerked back, hiding the pillow behind her. "Oh, Sarah, you startled me," she said, feigning innocence. "I was just checking on the baby." But I had seen it. I knew exactly what Linda had tried to do, Panicking, I jabbed at the call button, shouting for help. Nurses rushed in, followed closely by Mike. I was a mess, trying to explain what I'd just witnessed through gasping sobs. She tried to smother her. She had a pillow, I cried, pointing at Linda. Linda's face remained calm, her expression a mask of pure innocence. I don't know what she's talking about, she said smoothly. I think the poor dear is just overwrought from the delivery. Mike looked bewildered, his eyes darting between us. Sarah, honey, are you sure? Maybe it was just a nightmare? His voice was gentle but filled with uncertainty. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mike, I know what I saw. Your mother tried to kill our baby. The room exploded into chaos. Security was called, questions were being thrown at me, and through it all, Linda kept up her innocent act. This is ridiculous, she huffed, crossing her arms. I would never harm my own grandchild. Sarah's just not in her right mind. I saw the doubt in Mike's eyes, and it felt like a knife twisting in my chest. How could he not believe me? How could he think I'd make this up? As they wheeled our baby away for safety, I knew one thing. I would never let Linda near my child again, no matter what it took. Despite the confusion, I refused to back down. Please check the cameras, I begged the hospital security. You'll see, I know what I saw. After what felt like hours, the security officer returned, his face grim. Ma'am, he said, we've reviewed the footage. You were right. We've contacted the local police. Mike looked devastated as he watched the footage. His hands trembled, his voice barely a whisper. I can't believe it. My own mother. Linda was immediately banned from the hospital, but that didn't stop her from trying to manipulate the situation. She started calling Mike constantly, spinning tales about how it had all been a misunderstanding. I was just fluffing the pillow, sweetie, her voicemails cooed. Sarah's suffering from postpartum depression. She needs help. Meanwhile, I was struggling with my recovery. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Linda standing over my baby with that pillow. The stress was crushing me. I couldn't bear to let my daughter out of my sight. Mike's father, George, tried to smooth things over. He showed up at the hospital with a nervous smile. Now, let's not blow this out of proportion. Linda's always been a bit enthusiastic. I'm sure she didn't mean any harm. I was floored. She tried to smother my baby, George. How is that not harmful? The tension between us and Mike's family was unbearable. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. That's when I called my best friend, Emma, who's a lawyer. I needed advice. Sarah, this is serious, Emma said after I told her everything. You need to protect yourself and the baby. I think we should look into getting a restraining order. Days passed and more disturbing details came to light. The police investigation revealed Linda's long history of controlling behavior. They interviewed some of Mike's ex-girlfriends, who all shared stories of her manipulation and jealousy. Then one afternoon, Mike made a chilling discovery while packing things up at their old house. Linda's diary. He brought it to me, his hands shaking. Sarah, he said, his voice low, you need to see this. I opened the diary, my heart racing, and as I read through the pages, my blood ran cold. Linda had written obsessively about her birthday, how it was her special day, and how she wouldn't let anyone, not even her own grandchild, overshadow it. Mike was silent for a long time after reading it. Finally, he stood up. I need to talk to her. This ends now. I wanted to stop him, terrified of what Linda might do next, but I knew he needed this confrontation. Hours later, Mike returned home, looking drained but resolute. What happened? I asked, dreading the answer. Mike sighed, rubbing his face. It was intense. At first, she denied everything, but eventually she broke down. Dad was there too. He finally saw her for who she really is. And? I held my breath. And, it's over, Mike said firmly. I told her she's not welcome in our lives anymore unless she gets serious help. Even then, I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust her again. A weight lifted off my shoulders. It wasn't the end, not by a long shot, but it was a start. As I held our daughter close, I knew we had a long road ahead of us. But for the first time since that horrible night, I felt a glimmer of hope. After everything, Mike and I knew we had to take action. We couldn't let Linda get away with what she had done. With heavy hearts, we made the decision to press charges. We're doing the right thing, Mike reassured me, squeezing my hand as we met with the prosecutor. But Linda wasn't giving up without a fight. She sent tearful voicemails, pleading letters, and even tried to corner Mike at work. But we stood firm. "I'm sorry, Mom, but you've gone too far this time," Mike told her, his voice steady despite the pain in his eyes. The court case was grueling. Sitting there, hearing the details of that night, I felt sick to my stomach. But nothing could have prepared me for the shock of Linda's diagnosis: narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. The defendant exhibits classic signs of NPD, the psychiatrist testified. Her obsession with her birthday and her willingness to harm others for attention are textbook examples. Then came a surprise witness, Mike's ex-girlfriend, Rachel. "Linda always had to be the center of attention," Rachel said, her voice trembling. "She sabotaged our dates, spread rumors about me. Once, she even faked a health scare to stop Mike from proposing." Mike's face went pale as the realization dawned. This wasn't new behavior. Linda had been manipulating people for years. When the verdict was read, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Linda was found guilty of attempted infanticide. The judge sentenced her to both psychiatric treatment and prison time. "The court cannot ignore the severity of this crime," the judge declared. "Mrs. Thompson, your actions could have resulted in the death of an innocent child." As Linda was led away, George stood up in the gallery. His face was set with determination. "Linda," he called out, "I want a divorce." The courtroom fell silent. Linda's face crumpled, but for once, no one rushed to comfort her. In the weeks that followed, Mike threw himself into healing our family. He cut all ties with Linda, changed our phone numbers, and even suggested we move. "I think we need a fresh start," he said one night somewhere far from here. I agreed. We packed up our lives and moved to a new city, ready to begin again. A year passed in a blur of healing and new experiences. I returned to work and found my stride at a new marketing firm. While Mike's relationship with his father grew stronger, now free from Linda's influence. On our daughter's first birthday, we held a small party surrounded by the people who truly cared about us: George, Emma, and a few close friends. To new beginnings, Mike toasted, raising his glass as we sang happy birthday to our daughter. I looked around at the smiling faces and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. We had been through hell, but we'd come out stronger. Later that night, after the guests had left and our daughter was asleep, Mike showed me a news article on his phone. "Linda lost her job," he said quietly. "Her reputation in town is ruined. She's isolated in prison, and no one visits her." I felt a pang of something, not quite pity, but a hollow sadness for what could have been. "Do you ever regret how things turned out?" I asked him. Mike was quiet for a moment, then shook his head. "No, she made her choices. We made ours. And look at what we have now." He gestured around our home, at the birthday decorations, the laughter that had filled the air just hours before, and the photo of our smiling daughter on the mantel. "This is what matters," he said firmly. "This is our family." I nodded and leaned into his embrace, feeling the weight of the past lift just a little. We had weathered the storm, faced the darkness, and come out stronger on the other side. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I felt truly safe for the first time in years. We were home, we were healing, and we were free.